Hello, welcome along. Part 5 now of the build of this beautiful Ryefield Models. Where is it? M109A7 Paladin. And yeah, loving this. Was kindly sent to me by John Alec over in America. If you look in the description down below the video, you will see there's a link to his channel. Go take a look, have a look at his build of the same model, and give him a sub because he well deserves it. He's a great modeler and a great guy. So here we go. So in step 4 we got all of this work done on here, and what I said I'd do on step 5 is I would show you how I do annealing brass and stuff. It's for the newer modelers out there. So and before we get started, the correct way to anneal, I'm not sure if it's just brass or if it's all non-ferrous metals, you actually heat them and then you quench them. Okay, it's unlike any steel metal or ferrous material where you actually would heat it and quench it, you would harden it, whereas with non-ferrous metals you quench it and it softens it. However, with brass, especially the brass that we use on these models, it's so thin you don't need to quench it, you can just let it air cool. But the correct way to anneal brass is to quench it. So you can see here I've got a little tea light, a little candle lit. You can just use a cigarette lighter, but for ease of video making I'm going to use a little tea light. So we've got our straps here. There's 2 number 12s and 1 number 14, and these are for the straps that are going to hold down the 2 fuel cans and the water can on the side there. They're currently sat here with super glue on them drying, sat on this Brooks Models card. So what we're going to do is anneal these straps, and the reason I want to do this, I'll show you now. You can see here, if I hold this here, okay, if you can see, right, that candle's hot. You can see here it's quite springy. It's actually not too bad, but it's quite, you can hardly see it, can you? But it's quite springy. If we anneal it, it will make it more like lead, and it will just go wherever you want to put it, and it won't want to keep springing back. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this in the flame of the candle and just go until we get it to change colour. Now, because this is so thin and it's such a small area, it's going to be extremely quick, so you'll have to practice this yourself. What I would suggest, if you haven't done this before, cut some bits of the fret away and practice on that, and you'll get a feel for how long you have to be in the heat, because if you hold it too long it will just melt. Okay, it'll just disappear. So basically I've got this in the tweezers. Alright, I'm using old tweezers because it doesn't matter if they get burnt on the ends. What I'm going to do is just put this through the flame and just look at it. Okay, and we can see that we've got some discoloration on here. Okay, so we need to be fairly quick. Alright, and we've got the soot on the back, that's the norm. And what we want to do is just get it through this flame. And what you ideally want to do is get it to go cherry red, but the trouble is with such small parts, if you get them to go cherry red, you will end up with nothing left. So I can grab a piece of, this is dirty tissue, I've been using it for paint work. And we can rub that off on there. And we can see, you can see on there that we've got some heat affected areas where it's changed colour. And you will see now, if you remember before it was springy, now it has no springiness at all, it just goes where I put it. That candle's really hot. You can see now it just goes where I put it, it doesn't spring back at all. And that's what we want, and it's only really, I mean you can see I've concentrated on the end, it's only really the ends that we want done, because the middle is going to remain straight anyway. So what I'm going to do is go back in at this end, okay, and just quickly go through the flame. Alright, and you can see there we've got the blue and the purple haze on there. And that's what we're after. Okay? So there we are. If I put this in my hand and hold it up to the camera, you can see what we're looking for. And it's that simple. What I think I might do actually is take a bit of this fret, if I can. Where's something I can cut this with? Let's use these old Tamiya cutters. I want to show you what happens if you leave it too long. Okay, here we go. Right. So, thin piece of brass. Okay, it's slightly wider than that. But if you hold it too long, yeah, it's not going to work because it's got too much mass. But it's actually changing, it's glowing red. Yeah, we can't get enough heat into it. It's too thick. Basically there you can see we've annealed it, but you can't make it out on the camera, but we've actually damaged the surface. We've actually started to melt the material. This is always a problem. Yeah, it's not going to do it because it's so it's obviously it's not etched, you see, so it's like double the thickness of them. But basically if you hold it too long you can actually destroy them. I'm not going to destroy these because I obviously want to use them, but we're going to go through the flame and just looking for it to change colour. We're looking for that blue and purple. Let's wipe it off. You can see we got that coloration there. There we are. Take it, turn it round. You can see what a tiny amount of mass it has because I'm heating it so it's actually changing its structure, but I'm able to just grab it straight afterwards without, like you see, I burnt myself on that. But it's just there's such a tiny amount of material here. It's almost like foil. You've got to be so careful. So that's the 212s, and then finally we'll do the 14. Just wipe it off. Yeah, it needs a bit more, that one. I'll tell you what I might do. I might just see if I can find a scrap piece of photo etch that I don't need. And I'll show you what happens on that rather than failing to show you with a piece of fret. And there we go. You can see now, no springiness whatsoever. It just goes wherever I want to put it. Okay, so there we are. So that's our 3 belts. As I say, best to experiment with something very thin and spindly first. If you can get a piece of fret like this and you can hold it in the candle like that, okay, then you should be okay with whatever you want to do, even with these tiny little belts. Because and I've worked with, in the past, what did I do? I think I used some border model seat belts on something, and literally as soon as they saw the flame they just melted. So different companies use different brass, obviously. There are different standards, different qualities. Just put that candle out. So yeah, so there you go. Blew the smoke away. So we've got our belts there now. So the next thing we need to do is give them a clean. So I'm going to grab some leveling thinners. Okay, I'm going to get a cotton bud. Get the cotton bud nice and wet. And what we're going to do is just give these a clean to make sure. Has Dottie seen something or heard something? Now you can see the leveling thinner is capillarying underneath, so that'll be cleaning the other side, and that's just going to degrease, remove any stuff, because with such a tiny area, because we're just gluing the very ends of the belt, with such a tiny area to glue onto the model, we need it to be clean so that the glue has got a good chance of working. So we've got our, I think it was the 212s. I think the 12s are slightly shorter than the 14. The 14 is for the water tank, and the 12s, it'd be okay to touch the middle of them. Oh, come on, Nige. Yeah, so they're the 12s, and that's the 14. You can see that one's slightly longer. So what we're going to do now, have a look at the instructions. Let's get rid of that brass. Have a look at the instructions, and we can see that we've got the 14s, the 12s are going forward. The two gas or fuel tanks are going there, and then the 14 is going in last. We're going to work from left to right because I'm right-handed. So we'll start with the number 12. And what we're going to do, just as I did on the other ones, we're also going to look at the instructions to see which way the strap goes. And you can see the longer part of the strap goes towards the top. So we'll take one of these, okay, just like so. Make sure it's the right way round. Okay, so you've got etch detail on one side and the other side is plain. I'm just going to give that a wipe off. So one side is detailed, the other side is plain. And all we're going to do is take this like so. I'm going to grab our turret over here. And if you remember, we put these grooves in to give the belt something to key into. So there's a little groove in there that belt will just start to go into. I've got my VMS 5K Flexi CA, and this is the 4PE one. So I can push that into there, and you can see the angle I'm on. I'm on like a 30-degree angle. I'm just going to support it until the glue starts to take. And if it doesn't start to take, you can see it's resting against that handle there. Okay, so we can leave that to dry. Not sure if we can stand the turret up like this, can we? Nope. Maybe we can lean it against the hull. Be very careful because on the other side there's lots of fragile PE. So what I'm going to do now is grab some accelerator. So I'm going to put a little drop of accelerator in each of these positions here. Okay, and then we'll take our that was the shorter belt, wasn't it? Yes. We'll take our second number 12. Make sure it's the right way round. Yep, plain side on the back. And then we will dip the end of that into our CA. And then we'll just plonk that one. I'm going to just tip it round a touch. We'll just plonk that one in that hole, which has got accelerator in it. And that should help it go off a bit quicker. There you go. You can see the angle I've got them on because when they come out, they come up and over the top of the tanks, just like these do over here. Look, you can see these come up and over. Okay, you can see that's practically solid already, that one. All right, and then we'll do the last one. So yeah, I mean, I don't. The building of this model is not supposed to be like a tutorial. But I just know that you'll be watching, you will have watched number 4 and you'll be, how do you anneal brass, Nige? How do you do this? How do you do that? So for those of you that don't know, you've now seen how I do it. It's not how to do it, it's how I do it. I will never do a how-to video. It's always a how I do video. Okay, so there's the number 14 going in last. And there we are. So there we are. Leave that to dry. And they will be extremely strong. On the other side, I had to remove a belt because I put them on the wrong way round, or they were wrongly numbered or something. And it literally, I was pulling at it and I thought it was going to break. But this VMS, this is the glue I'm using here. Flexi 5K CA4PE. It's absolutely brilliant stuff. It's not the cheapest super glue in the world. You can get it from Brooks Models, which is here. Okay, brooksmodels.com. Use the code NMB10 for purchases of £15 to £50, or use NMB20 for £50 and over, and you'll get 10 or 20% off. Well worth having. Well worth having. But to tell you how good this stuff is, we all know we buy super glue and it goes off after a few months. See that on there? That's the date that I opened it, the 11th November 22, and you can see it was actually manufactured in February 22. So this glue is over 3 years old now, and you can see that it's still liquid, okay, and it still works like that. We all know with old super glues, they thicken up, they turn into a gel, they take forever to dry. Not this stuff. I'm not storing it in the fridge, I'm storing it in a drawer in the dark in my room at room temperature. So, you know, it's absolutely amazing stuff. And we've got the other ones I use here. Here's the black thin, and this one was actually manufactured in July 22. So that one's nearly 3 years old. Here's the black. Again, I opened that one in November 22, and that was manufactured, I can't even see the date, but that's still usable. It has thickened up slightly, that one, to be honest, but you know, you buy the cheaper super glues like this one here, all right, and this one is, and this came from Brooks Models as well, but it's the cheaper version, and it's a sort of instant drying super glue, but it won't last like this one. I can't see a date on here. There's no use by date or anything on here. There may have been something on the bottom and it's rubbed off, but basically it's probably on the box. But glues like this tend not to last that long. I have had glues last a year, but generally 6 months. This stuff here, this is the cheap stuff from what they called, Screwfix. And you can see that was a thin glue, and it's starting to thicken up, and it's also glued itself to the lid, so that's going to go in the bin eventually. There we are. So yeah, worth remembering. But this stuff is incredible. It's really, really good, and you can see there with those belts, we can pull them around, no problem at all. With them being annealed and everything as well, nice and easy to put where we want them and get them looking nice and realistic like those are. Okay, so yeah, thoroughly recommend this VMS for PE, because we all know that, you know, especially for ships and stuff, you've got tiny PE parts and they're so easy to ping off. I have never known a super glue that works like this. Honestly, it's just the absolute mutt's nuts when it comes to super glues, and I'm not just saying that because I'm promoting it or whatever for Rob at Brooks Models. It is the best super glue on the planet. I'm convinced of it. So there we go. Right, back in a minute. Okay, moving along, waiting for those cans to dry. I've got glue on the seams. So we've sort of done all this. We haven't fitted the sledgehammer because I'm worried about it getting broken off. We haven't fitted this grill because I want to paint in behind there black. So moving on, we've got this machine gun. Now this is basically the, let's call it the simple machine gun. So this is the 50 cal that's going on, and that's that type there. So you can see it's just a basic gun sitting there, or you can go for the all singing and dancing with the laser guided sights or whatever it is, I don't know. But that, I think, is a far better looking option. It looks a lot more chunky. And when it comes to it, we have to decide. If you remember, we've got those holes in the turret. There's holes down in here. Where's my knife? There's 2 there and 2 there. Don't drill out all 4 like John did. You just want to choose. If you're going to go for the whole singing and dancing, it's the front 2. For the simple one, it's the back 2. I'm not sure if you can actually fit both. I think you have to fit either. But I doubt if you'd want to fit both. So I'm going to miss this out because I'm not going to use it. I would rather have these parts in a bag in my spares box so I can use them on something else. See, I did like an Italeri Hummer. I can assure you that'll be a lot nicer than the 50 cal you get in the Italeri kit. So there we go. Right. So coming over the page, we have parts here we need to get off the sprues, get them cleaned up, and then start to get them together. You can see here, this is a major sub-assembly that's going to become part of that. So this is going to be a very, very highly detailed. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 parts, 36, 37, 38, 39. Oh, that's optional. So it's 38. You've also got the option to have this little smaller machine gun in there as well. Rifle, should we say. 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44 parts just to do that gun. So yeah, it's going to be a nice, good looking bit of equipment. So let's get some parts off the sprues and start getting some cleaned up. Okay, so first thing we'll concentrate on is this bit here. You can see there's two parts here, T1 and T4. They're clear, so I'm not going to put them in yet. They should be easily accessible after it's built up, but we'll see how we go during the assembly. So we have H13 here, which is this major part, and it's got lots and lots going on. It's quite a complex little part, actually. Lots and lots of detail. There's an ejector pin mark there, but I'm hoping it won't show. So we'll see how we get on. If we do have to fit it, we will. So we've got this part here, which is H55. Now you can see I've dropped a ball here. There's a little lug there marked in red, which comes out the front, and I've actually managed to cut half of it off. So I've dropped a plug there. So that's going to basically glue in there, and that lug. Grab some tweezers. That lug that I've cut off is going to go in that slot in there. So basically I've lost most of my positive connection, but we'll see how we get on. Right, so I'm going to just drop some cement down in there. That'll hold that together. Okay, and then this in turn is going to drop down onto there. So we've got like a funny looking shape going on. So that fits on there nice and snugly, and then it sits on top of some little, what look like little bolt heads or something. So we'll just drop some cement down in there to hold that in place. Okay. So now I wish I hadn't cut off that lug, because I'm not sure exactly which position this is supposed to go in now. I'm looking on here, it looks like it's actually sort of like that. That'll do. Okay, right, so now we've got this part here, H58. It's going to sit on the front there. So that's just going to drop onto there like that. Okay, so that's H58 on the front there. And then we've got H21, which is like a little shield type thing, and that is going to sit, again, it's got some little legs that it sits on. I haven't actually removed the sprue grate from there, look. Just sand that away. We have a D-shaped pin, but we don't appear to have a D-shaped hole. I'm not even sure if that's the right part. It doesn't even seem to fit over there at all. It looks right. Oh, it is a D-shaped hole. I've still got sprue gate on there. Come back in a second. Alright, so that's that assembly finished, all but the clear parts. I'm just going to have a look a second. Yeah, it looks like this is actually the front of the gun. So that's good. They're going to be easy to get in those bits afterwards. So there we go. Right. So we've got this part here, H3. That's going to go that way round. And we've got this part here, H18, and that's going to go on the side. That's a funny little assembly there. I'm going to use some quick setting, I think, purely for speed. held together. There we go, that's together like that. And then this is going to go onto the back of that, like that. Wow, that's going to be weak. So again, we'll get some quick setting in there. I think this is all going to be very, very fragile, guys. Okay, so that's gone on there like that. Just checking it for square. There we go. And then we've got this piece here, H14, which is that way up. And what I'm going to do is glue this piece in first, H39. That's going to go up in there, like so. Okay, so that's sitting there like that. And then this, in turn, is going to sit in there. Okay, that's good. That's going to support those two halves. So that's going to slide in there like that, okay? I assume that's correct. It looks straight enough. You've got this rod here, which is sitting on top of there. I think that's kind of controlling where it goes. Alright, so just trying to check this all for square and everything, because there's not much in the way of positive location on here. If you are newer to the hobby, you may choose to do the smaller, simpler gun. Alright, and then we've got this part here, H35, which is going to sit. So it's going that way up. Let's get a sit on the top in there. Blimey, tiny little location. So I'll just get a drop of extra thin on here. I use the ordinary because the quick setting will just dry too fast. And that is going to sit on the top of there, like that. Wow. There's not much going on in the way of positive locations for any of this stuff, guys. It's but it's going to be a beautiful looking assembly once it's painted and it's got some wash and stuff on it. It's going to look stunning. And then now finally for this upper section, we've got this little piece of photo etch, and that is going to sit on top of there. Where did it go? It fell through. Okay, so this is going to sit, you can see it sits on that angle there. Wow. I'm going to do this off camera and then I'll come back and show you when I fitted it, so you can see how it looks. Right then, guys, so as I said, we're pushing forward with this gun. We got this part here done, and that's all lovely, that's all nice and cured. Just make sure that's square. As I said, there's no real positive location, it's all a bit sort of floppy. But anyway, I've got some more parts off to carry on, and as you can see, we are in seams and ejector pin city. There's 3 on each of those. There's 3 in there. There's 2 in there. And they're all going to be visible, I think. Well, these here look like trays for catching shells. So they're definitely going to be visible, because as you can see, they sit there face up. So you can see it there. There's the assembly there. So they're going to be definitely visible. So we need to get rid of those. They're going to be quite difficult to sand. All I'll do is cut off an end of the sanding stick and then get in there with a stick and just sand away at it. And then if we need to, we can puddle some Mr. Servicers and paint or something in there just to finally flatten it out. So yeah, and then I thought, well, while we're waiting for that, I'll get on with the gun. So got all the parts off to do the gun, and then basically we've got a seam down the middle of the gun to deal with. So I'm having to deal with that. And also on this sprue, I must say, I think this sprue is probably an older sprue from another kit, because as you can see, we've got hatches here, we've got these frames here. I think this is from a much older kit, and we've got loads and loads of spare parts on here. But as you can see, in a couple of areas, I certainly had on some of these parts, there's tiny bits of flash. There are some mould seam lines, and it's covered in ejector pin marks, which is not an issue I've had with the rest of the kit. So I've got a feeling this is from an older kit. Can we see any? I don't see any numbers or anything on here like Tamiya do. They'll have a raised area. But no, I can't see anything. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be back in a minute when all this is dry and I've got it all sanded out. We're back. It's yesterday I finished the last bit, and as you can see, we have some parts. So that there, the seam has all been sanded out and gone. This assembly here is all dried. I think I remember I said I'd show you how that photo actually looks when it's on. There it is there. You can see it there. Okay, so that's on there. Those ammo boxes can go back in the box. That forward-looking thing can go back in. This thing here, this thing that sits above the gun barrel, I've built that up because I'd done all the ejector pin marks and everything, and I just thought I'd assemble it because you see I've done all that there. So that's basically going to sit on there after we got this guard on. As you can see, I've painted the inside of the guard black, and then I finished off painting all this area black, and I'm glad I did, because it noticed when the paint was wet and shiny, I had a big divot in there. So check your kit before you build your breech up, because it'd be a lot easier to fill and sand that with it off the model than on it. So yeah, it's just on the top of there. I can't remember what part number that was, but we will have a look so I can tell you. It was part B34 on the top there. Okay, is that the top? Is that the top or is that the bottom? It's either the top or one of those. There's a big divot in it, so yeah, bear that in mind when you come to build your model. It's the side that's adjacent to this square slot here. This side doesn't have that slot in it, look, but this side is perfect. But this side had a big sink in it, so bear that in mind when you come to build yours. I don't know why it's got a big sink in it, because there's nothing on the back of it, so strange. Anyway, so that's that. Right, so we've got all these parts off. The ejector pin marks are gone. We've basically sanded them out, and then put some Mr. Surfacer in there, so you can see these 2 trays. If we see any witness in there, we can put some dust in there or something if we're going to weather the model. We've got that sledgehammer there, that can go back in the box. But we've got tiny parts here. So I've also gone on assembled this little piece here. This was H40, H57 and H68. So I just went on and assembled them. It's just basically so I didn't have too many tiny parts lying around. The actual breech of the gun is here. That's all sanded out. So now we can fit this little part here. Now where does... That's going in this side, is it? Yes, that's going in. In fact, I'm going to fit this top plate first, H77, wherever it is. Where's it gone? Where has H77 gone? Is it inside a box or something? Oh no, please don't say I've lost it. There it is. It must have been inside one of those boxes. Phew! That was close. Right, so we'll grab some extra thin over. And we will have this the right way up, and we can see, let's grab some tweezers, this little tiny part here, this is H47, and it's got a, I doubt you'll be able to see it, it's got a tiny little tab on it and a tiny little pin, and it's going to go into that tiny little slot and that tiny little hole. Come on, focus. And a tiny little slot and a tiny little hole in there. So what I'm going to do is just put a drop of extra thin on here. Just a small drop, like that. And then add this to the assembly. Come on. I know, guys, I know what you're thinking. I should have test fitted it first. Oh no, oh, I thought I'd lost it then. It's basically, the glue's going to be all dried out now anyway, so this is like a test fit. That's upside down. Wow, this is something else, this is. There we go. If you can hear any noise in the background, that's Dottie with her chew. She's finally chewing a chew rather than me or the chair. Okay, so that tiny little piece has gone on there. It's absolutely tiny. So that's gone on there, and then we've got this top plate here, and that's going on there like that. So if you're going to have it loading, that would actually be open. But there's no internal details, so I wouldn't bother doing that if I were you. That's going to go on there. I do love these multi-part guns, but quite often they're a pain to assemble. This one's actually not too bad. Some of the mini art ones have got like 9 million pieces. There we go, there's that. That's the loading plate on the top, and then we've got the handle going on the back, so that's H49, and that's just going to fit on those two. There are tiny little steps in the back. I'm going to have to do this under a magnifier, so I'll come back in a minute after I've glued it on. But I can't see the step without my magnifier. It's absolutely tiny. Back in a minute. We got that on. We fitted the rear part here, the rear handles, and we got the little cocking handle on the side there. So there we go. So we'll put that to one side to dry. In fact, we'll put it on top of the tank there. Okay, so let's get back up to here where we were, where we left off. So we need to go over the page, I think, don't we? No, we don't. So we've done all of this. We've done all of that. Now we've got to do this. So we've got this piece here, which is H10, and that's going to go on to H86, which is the one without the nubbins on. It's just got a small head on it. So we've got a little square bit on there. So if I put a tiny drop of extra thin in there, it's this tiny drop, it's like the Atlantic Ocean I've just put in there. Okay. So there's that one gone there. Okay, put a drop on the inside because it's not a very positive location, like most of this sprue. And then we've got the same on the other side. So this is the one with the small parts on it. Again, you can see we've got lots of ejector pin work we've done there. So we'll stick that into there. There we go. Just like so. Right, and then what we're going to do next, we've built this unit up down the bottom here, we've dealt with the seams. Now I've put these bits on here, H60 and H56, I did those off camera. So we've got H19, this little tray, and this is going to go on this side, and there's two, oh dear, how on earth is that going to locate on there? There are two tiny little indentations, and there are some tiny little raised areas for it to go on, so I'm going to see if I can cover it like that. Just stick it on. Get those two little nubbins and those indentations, and you can see here, if I hold it up to the light, you can see there's some tiny little areas under there. The light's not very good here for some reason. I know, because I've got the magnifier on and it's fooling the camera. So I'm going to put some cement under there because I want that to be not easily knock-offable. Okay, so then we can turn this around. Alright, and what we'll do is we'll put this tray on here. That's just going to sit in. In fact, we'll leave that off for now. None of this has a very good location. None of it. None of it. None of it has a very good location. None of it. Oh, shut up, Nigel. Right, so that's going to go in there. Do I need to put this in first? Well, that's nice. They're a nice, that's a nice snug fit in there, so it's going to stay on there and not just fall off. This side's a snug fit as well because I've already tried it. So there we go, lovely. Okay, so that is going to go that way onto there. Get these in line first. Wow, this is fiddly. This is fiddly central. There, so actually I didn't like how tight that was going on there. That's okay, it's not too bad at all. Right, so I'm going to put a drop of cement on here and a drop on here. Put it round. Oh dear, that piece there is... Why didn't they put some tabs on things? Urgh. Oh dear. Yeah, I just think they could have put a big location tab on that, so it just sort of went in from underneath and stayed. The same here. You've got, you know, tiny little square lump on there. I've got a feeling this is from a pretty old kit, because this compared to the rest of the model, it's like, you know, it's like Italeri versus Tamiya. Oh look, if I do that with it, you can see that it sort of sways around, so get it central so it's nice and square in there. And then we just let that cement dry. So I'm going to put another drop in under there to make sure it's nice and solid. Okay, I'm not going to attempt to move the gun. And then so we're not going to attempt to move the gun. Now I want to move the gun because I'm not convinced that's correct. I'm going to leave that like that, because that armour plate there, it's probably moved in, that's why. Everything is just so just, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Unpositive. It's just, there's no, why don't they put pins and square things and stuff like that? You know, why have this just sat there on three tiny little, I mean, they're not even a millimetre diameter. That's just going to keep getting broken off, I think. You can see me flooding up with super glue under there to get some strength into it. And then this on the front here, again, you see you've got this tiny little triangular nub on there, which is going to go into that little square hole there. Maybe I can stick this on a... on a stick or something. Right, I've got those on, so you can see I've got my little cardboard block here. And we've glued this on the front. It does have a little bit more contact than just the area I talked about. I just push this onto this bike. It doesn't seem to want to stay on there very well. I've put a drop of thick super glue under there, and hopefully it will dry and just set, so it'll just give it a bit more support. That's terrible, that one there. So we've got that on there now. So now we're going to add this block. That ammo bin can go in there. So this block is going to go on the side here. And again, this is just got, I'm going to put some cement in here. In fact, I'm going to put some cement all over there. Because this has, you can see it's going to sit on those 4 pads. So there we go, you can see that sat down on those 4 pads in there. And just get it parallel like that, there we go. There we are. So that's that on, that's the ammo box. Guns here. Not adding the barrel yet, so that's that assembly completed. So that's cool. So we've done that, that, and that. We've done all of this here. So yeah, everything's good. Okay, so moving on. Did we miss anything back here? No, I've put that piece of photo etch on the front of the grille there. I haven't fitted these doors because I want to be able to pick the turret up like that, rather than use the pick up the sides and touch all the photo etch. So I'm leaving those doors off for now. We're not doing that machine gun. I'm going to keep that as spare parts rather than build it up. So now we're going to move on to the back, the bin or whatever it is on the back of the actual main turret itself. So I'll get these parts off and we'll look at getting those assembled. And oh, photo etch again. Oh, I might leave this till tomorrow. What's the time? I think it's time to go and have a pint. I'm sick and tired of photo etch. If you see what I've been working on, you'll know what I mean. But we're going to put this away in the bin here. What I can do is we'll get this off of here. This is the base of this big lump on the back. It's probably part of the actual turret itself. And then we've got this box, which is a separate piece of its own bag. Let's see if you remember, there we go. There's the box in its own bag. And there we are. And there's one injection point there, which is going to be covered by that box, so that's good. Beautifully designed, beautifully made, no mould seams or anything. It'll show up under primer if there is anything. But I'm just going to have a look through my magnifier to see what I can see. There must be mould seams because it's slide moulded, but it is beautifully done. There's a little, there's like a little edge on there, I think. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be there. There's an edge on here. I think I'll leave it because it looks like maybe it's supposed to be there. It's really too thick to be a mould seam. It is beautifully made. It's clearly slide moulded, but just cannot see. It's brilliant. It's absolutely awesome. You know, like I say, you compare this to that last sprue, the H sprue, it's like a different era. Right, where are my god hands? Here they are. Just take away those sprue gates. Well, there's enough of them in there. And then get our sanding stick and just remove the excess, which is basically nothing after you've been at it with God hands used correctly. There we go, and then that is going to go. Okay, there's no engineered way this goes on, but you can see that you can put it either way, but it actually goes like that. So it goes with those little buttresses are against this side. Okay, so that's that, and it fits beautifully. There'll be no seam filling required. You can see we have an edge coming down there. We'll just brush some extra thin in there, and then this is going to be up against the back of the turret, so that doesn't matter about what it looks like. And yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful fit. And we'll just put some down here so that we don't get gaps and stuff that wash goes into and looks horrible. And that is just going to sit on the back of the turret. We'll sand that there flush. Yeah, very nice indeed. Yes, the trouble, you see, I keep saying about not doing this and then I go and do it. You glue it first, and then when you squeeze it you get oozage, which is never very nice to see. Just get rid of it. There we go. There we are, and that is going to sit up against the back of the turret. There's two tiny little pins on there that are going to go in two tiny little holes on there, and that's just going to sit like that. You can see those gussets line up with some features on the back of the turret there. Very nice. Now it's starting to look like a Paladin. And I've also been looking at those stowage bins on the back. You have the option of putting them, when they go on, you have the option of putting them on like on the sides or on the back, because they're hinged. And what I'm tempted to do is drill and pin it so that I can actually move them. Not because I want to play with it, just because I can play with the display, and also I can move them around to paint them, which would be a good thing. So we may have a look at that, we'll see. So where are we? I think we're on nearly on the hour, aren't we? At least on 3/4 of an hour. So I think what we'll do is call it a day there for this one, and then when I come back we'll be ready to fit this. This will all be nice and dry, so we can look at getting all this together. That is fiddlier than a fiddly thing on a fiddly day in a fiddle contest. That is Mr. Fiddly. So there we are. Right, I will see you all soon for part 6, and I think in part 6 we will probably finish the build, because we're just going to do this and the bins, and that is pretty much. We've already done the rear door. Yeah, they've got the travel locks. That's about it. So there may be 7 parts to the build, and then we'll start getting on with painting it. Obviously, not doing tracks yet, because I have the, as you know, I have the ET model tracks that I reviewed. I have the kit tracks. I have the tracks from the Magic Factory M10 Booker, but I've also got the Ryfield model 3D printed resin tracks on order as well. So I think they're going to be the ones I'm going to use, because the other ones seem a little bit too oversized for this. So either everything else is slightly oversized or this is slightly undersized, but it all looks a little bit chunky. But it's only a touch. You could still use them and get away with it, no problem. But it's just when you compare the tracks in this kit to the others, these are smaller. So don't know. Anyway, I will see you back whenever for part 6. Thank you for watching, and see you soon. Hopefully you enjoyed your bit of solder intuition. Any questions, stick them down below. And there we go. Not soldering, sorry, not soldering. Annealing. What am I thinking about? Soldering. Oh yeah, don't ask any soldering questions, please. Right, I will see you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.